are broadcasting.
With 6 p.m., we'll call this regular village board meeting to order. If you don't, please join me in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, could you take the roll, please?
Trustee Mann.
Here.
Trustee Gerard.
Present.
Trustee Detmer.
Here.
Trustee Gerger. Here. Trustee Mao.
Here.
Trustee Scherschel. Here. President Kimsey.
Present. Public announcements this evening. Public comments on agenda topics. Hearing none, I would take a motion to put the consent agenda on the table.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Miles made a motion. Have a second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Charo. Any discussion or questions regarding the warrants or the minutes?
One question on the warrants, Bobcat rental, for $3,800, I didn't know if that was just equipment that we didn't have, or if we needed to, or how that worked, I thought.
The one that the village owns was broke. So to continue with the street work, we rented one instead of waiting for it to repair.
Okay.
There was a cost last month as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How long do you suspect you'll need to keep running it?
I'm not sure how long it's going to take to get ours fixed or whether it's worth fixing. We may have to purchase one.
Any additional?
I'm sorry.
Any additional questions, comments? Mr. Clerk, would you take a roll, please?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Jaro.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger. Yes. Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Scherschel. Yes.
No old business under new business, an ordinance accepting the low bid for repair work on Garvey Lane. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll
Make that motion.
Trustee Charo made a motion, second by
I'll second.
Trustee Mao. $27,724 for Kinney Contractors to do repair work at the end of Garvey Lane. Any discussion or questions regarding the ordinance?
Jim, you looked over the proposal, looks good.
Yeah, it's consistent with the pricing that they've provided us in the past for other street repairs. Like we talked about it at the last meeting. It does, because the bid amount, we asked them for a proposal. They thought the proposal would be above what the village would be, or what PAC would be able to authorize. So we went through the formal bidding process. They were a low bidder and recommended moving forward with that work. They're interested in getting that done yet this year.
Were there any other bidders? All we could tell was that this was the lowest one, and there weren't any others included.
There were no other bidders.
Mr. Clerk, would you take a roll, please?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Jaro.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Scherschel. Yes.
Item 2 is an ordinance approving a setback variance for an accessory structure at 31 Tanglewood Drive. A motion to bring this to the table.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Childs made a motion. Have a second.
Second.
Is that Trustee Scherschel? Thank you. This is, Brian, you want to cover this one?
Sure.
Do you want to cover?
Sure.
On October 29th, we had one of two zoning board public hearings. And in that hearing, the zoning board of appeals unanimously approved this setback, which basically gave Mr. Black an opportunity to put his garage in line with his house that abuts Tanglewood Drive. And the reason he needed to come to the zoning board of appeals for the variance was because the original builder did not build the house to the right specifications on the lot. So technically, on that side, it should have been 30 feet from the property line. It was only built 25. So the variance he was asking for was for a 25-foot variance to match the line of the house instead of making him use another 5 feet, which would have made the garage smaller.
So to correct an old zoning problem,
Do what?
to correct an old zoning problem, it would match up.
Correct. Correct. It would have been set back 30 feet like it should have been originally when the house was built. He didn't build the house, he just bought it that way. So they decided not to hold him liable for a mistake that was made 30 years ago. And it wasn't going to impact the neighborhood at all.
And no
So,
neighbors showed up to the.
no, I had calls in favor of it for both of them that we're going to talk about tonight, so.
Okay, that's gonna be my next question.
Okay.
So, They did have calls in favor from the neighbors?
Correct.
Which is rare, and it's
Do it.
it's rare. Good deal. All right, any other questions for Ryan? Mr. Clark?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Item 3 is an ordinance approving setback variance for a primary residence at 45 Teal Drive. Could I have a motion to bring this to the table?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Miles made a motion. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Charo. Ryan?
Mr. Patton, who lives at 45 Teal Drive, is doing an addition to his house. When he originally built the house in 1988, he had to use the covenants because we didn't have a zoning ordinance at that time. We didn't have a zoning ordinance until 96. Our zoning ordinance requires a 10-foot side yard. In the original covenants, their zoning rules were a 15-foot aggregate side yard setback with a 5-foot minimum on one side. So if you had 5 on one side and 10 on the other, that was completely legit for that neighborhood. What he is doing, actually, when he originally built his house, it was 6 foot from the property line, and the addition will be 7 feet from the property line. So he technically doesn't meet the requirements today of the village's zoning ordinance, but he's actually over what he had built the house of the original setback. So they unanimously approved that as well.
This is all in the backyard too, correct?
Well, it's actually more the side yard because the back, he actually purchased the top lot at one time. Over on Teal, he had a lot of those top lots, so he had tons of room in the back. Wasn't even a question there.
I'm sorry, I may have not followed. He doesn't meet the zoning issues or his current zoning guides right now.
Right.
So why did he need to get the request in?
Because he needed an extra 3 feet instead of making him go 10 feet from the property line. They gave him another couple feet to actually do what he wanted to do. Okay, so it didn't squeeze down the addition.
By doing the addition, it would have to, without the zoning board's approval, it'd have to meet the new.
Yeah.
Correct, it'd have to meet the current zoning ordinance.
He's only got 68 inches from that,
So-
into this property.
Good, everybody satisfied?
Thank you, Ryan.
Mr. Clark?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
We are running fast, so is there any objection to having Otterbach and Wayman start their presentation on the actuarial report before we close the committee, or the board meeting?
I did have one public comment for village business
Okay.
that was emailed in. And they wanted to know if we were ever going to fix the PA system so that people would be able to hear them online.
We're a little spread out awkwardly right now to, to try to catch it, but appreciate the question, thank you. Is there any other public comment on village business?
So the answer is no.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with our PA system other than we're all wearing masks and we're.
Well, we don't have anything, I think it's part of the problem. When I go back.
But you guys could hand that around when you speak if you would like.
Yeah, or we can move up there and, yeah, there's a lot of options.
Whatever you want to do.
Does anyone object to having Otterbach start?
Nope.
No.
Where would you like me to speak?
Do you have a copy of our presentation to?
I do not. They never did send it to me.
Okay, that was emailed around earlier this morning. I apologize, I have one copy for myself. I thought we were going to have a version for everybody, so I will make sure that this does get to you in your hands. I'll go over the numbers here. And, if you have any questions, if I go too fast, anything like that, please slow me down. I know that it's important information here.
Can you give your name for the clerk?
Sure. My name is Bob Reitz, R-I-E-T-Z. I'm the enrolled actuary from Lauterbach Naaman, works on your pension fund for the police. For part of our presentation, we go through our actuarial evaluation each year. So this is for the contribution year May 1st, 2020 through 4/30/2021. Our recommended contribution increased from the prior year from $666,000 to $710,000. So that's a $44,000 increase, or approximately 6.6%. Normally, we would expect it to go up by about 3.25% each year, but there was some other financial demographic items this year that caused that contribution to go up a little bit more, and we'll go over what those items were. Your market value of assets, as we're measuring this as of May 1st, is at $8.15 million, up from $7.9 million the prior year. That's mainly all due to contributions. If you think of 4/30 and what was happening in that time of year, the pandemic's hitting probably a really low point for your market value of assets. You actually had a negative return for the period of 4/30 or 5/1/19 through 4/30/20, so a negative 1.7% return. I imagine since that point in time, currently your assets have returned and gained a lot of that back. That's just the one snapshot that we had to use for this valuation. So you will see when you get the presentations, there was an item out there for asset returns less than expected, and it's increasing contribution accordingly because of those amounts. Okay, so when we talk about the increase in contribution, as I mentioned, it went up by $44,000. We would normally expect it to go up by $22,000. That's that 3.25% number. We would also expect your accrued liability to increase each year by your expected rate of return, or 6.25%. Officers are also accruing new benefits, so there's a normal cost component that makes your liability go up, and there are some benefits that are being paid that brings your liability down. Other demographic items that caused actually a gain here was salary increases were actually less than what we expected. Outside of your FOP contract, we have a 3.75% long-term expected salary increase. Most officers are more in the 3.25% range on average, so we actually had a gain there, which decreased your contribution by about $6,000. Demographically, you didn't have a lot of changes. You had one member terminate with a vested benefit, did not take a refund of his contributions, but that caused a pretty big gain for the fund. About $150,000 of liability was a gain, decreasing your contribution by approximately $24,000. So that one member is no longer accruing a normal cost or additional benefits to accrue. That's why that contribution is coming down. You did replace them with two new members, so you did two presumably younger, less paid officers come on the roll, so their normal cost and accrual will be a little bit less than that one member was as he left. Assumption changes. Every 5 years or so, we at LNA, we survey all the police and fire pension funds we work with within the state, about 360 funds, or about half of the funds. We gather all the census data, and we do a demographic experience study to come up with the assumptions that we use. For example, termination rates, disability incidents, salary scales, items like that. In addition to mortality tables, what mortality table are we going to use each year? We did update the mortality table to the most recent table available by the Society of Actuaries, which is called the Pub 2010S table, which is geared towards public safety, police, fire, correctional officers. So we do have a direct apples to apples comparison when we're talking about mortality and trying to compare longevity for this distinct population in regards to matching it up with other pension plans that also cover police and fire members. So that increased your liability by about $50,000. However, it decreased your contribution. So the way that worked was people are living longer, but since you don't have a very large retired population, those are currently receiving benefits, you're not seeing those benefits that are currently being paid going to be expanded into the future. So it actually decreased a little bit. Once more of these members that are your actives start to become retirees and stuff, we've already have that liability accounted for, so we wouldn't see a spike or a jump in anything once that those members start to draw their pensions. The big item that probably caused the biggest increase this year was due to the consolidation bill. Everybody knows what's going on in Springfield and the consolidation of all the police and fire pension funds. As part of that consolidation, we know that was mainly due for investment purposes. Try to get the investments together, we can get a better return, that sort of thing. However, there was a kicker that was included for Tier 2 members. About 8 of your 14 members are Tier 2. And what that did is they increased the benefits that are going to be payable to Tier 2 members really in two ways. One, currently there's a salary cap on pay for Tier 2 members, and that cap increases at formerly the lesser of 1/2 of 3% or the CPI rate. And what the consolidation bill was, remove that 1/2 component. So now that salary cap is going to increase at the full 3% or the CPI. So the salary cap is going to be increasing at a slightly faster rate. In addition, right now, currently, Tier 2 members, their benefits are determined using an 8-year average of pay. The consolidation bill shortened that to a 4-year average. So presumably the average pay that's going to be used to determine benefits is going to be higher, in addition to the higher cap that they may get down the road. Increased your liability by about $126,000, increased your contribution by about $45,000. So that was all, nothing we really have much control over, but that's really the biggest change that you saw was with regards to that consolidation bill. And other items, just to round that out, asset returns less than expected, as I mentioned. Right now, there was a significant actuarial loss due to investments this past year, about a $20,000 increase to your contribution, and then contributions less than expected. You're really right on. You've been paying the contributions that have been requested year in, year out, so it's just really a timing difference of about $2,000 to make that difference go forward. I just threw a lot of information out there, none of which that you have in front of you to see. So do you have any questions that I can answer for you right now?
Will your report have your contact information on it?
It will. Our company contacts on there, my individual, I can give you a card as well, so you have it for the record, and for any members that are here, I can do that as well.
So that 4 years is whatever they made over the average of that last 4 years of employment.
Correct. So
And then the officer that left, he just left his money.
his is still in, so he has a vested benefit that he can take. He's only 40 years old today, so he's got to wait till 60 to get it. He may take a refund of his contributions, depends on what his financial situation is, because those contributions, as they sit here, are not going to grow with interest. They're just going to be there until age 60, or he can take that retirement benefit, but he's got 20 years to wait to get it.
Yep.
Make sure that you understand it. Tier 2 is not what the FFP contract. So it refers to the 14 employees being tier 2, that's set up by the state benefit system.
In this context, it's a retirement term.
Right. It's strictly based on when you were hired. If you're hired after January 1, 2011, you're in the Tier 2 group. If you're hired prior to that date, you're in the Tier 1 group. And there's slightly different level of benefits that are payable to Tier 1 versus Tier 2 members.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, that was the state pension reform.
Right. That's the quick and dirty of my report. I can go through other information. If you don't have it in front of you, I'd say it's kind of, it's going to go in and out of your ears, but I would like you all to get a copy of this. And
Our fund ever been audited by DOI?
Audited by DOI, not as long as I've worked with the fund. I think they try, they say they're going to do it every 3 years or so. It's probably more like every 8 or 9 years they might get around to it, is how I understand their timing works. Not as long as I've been with the firm 3 years, but we don't have anything and I've seen in our records that it's happened any times in the recent past.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Scheduled meeting, the Fire and Police Commission meeting will be November 18th at 5:30 p.m. Planning Commission 6 p.m. November 19th. Village Board 6 p.m. November 24th. Utility Oversight Subcommittee 6 p.m. December 14th. Public Properties and Recreation 6 p.m. on January 11th. Could I have a motion to suspend the board meeting to reconvene at the end of the committee of the whole for an executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting stands on pause. Chairman Gerger.
Roll call, please. Call to order.
Trustee Mann.
Here.
Trustee Charles.
Present.
Trustee Detmers.
Here.
Trustee Gerger. Here. Trustee Mao.
Here.
Trustee Sherrill.
Here. Public comments on agenda topics. Did we get any emails during committee hold?
I didn't get any.
Anyone else? We got some. Have a motion to bring the consent agenda forward.
Make that motion.
Trustee Mao?
Second. Okay, right now.
Sherrill. Any discussion on the minutes from October 13th? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. No old business, new business? Representative, so we just, Greg, are we okay with that?
Yeah, we're fine, because we're not taking any action on it, so we can take it first.
Property tax levy information. Do we have somebody?
I'm going to attempt to do that along with Dave. Sherry's on vacation, so. The old levy for 2019 was $330 million, and the new levy for 2020 is $345 million. The rate per 100 is projected to be exactly the same as what it was last year at 0.4636. The levy last year was $1,529,880. The projected levy for this year is $1,599,420. Way to look at that is last year's it was for $309.07. That's the tax. That's the tax on a home valued at $200,000. This year, it would be $309.07. So a 0% increase from last year.
I think Pat made one misquote here.
I did?
Yeah, the 2019 total tax levy is $1,420,635. When you include the new property.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you include the new property and what was added to the tax rolls previous year, that puts the estimated levy for this year at $1,599,420,000. This is the first year that Glenwood Lake Estates is being included in our levy. If you can remember Sherry's presentations from the past, the amount of the levy is capped on property that existed on the rolls currently. She's projecting that tax rate will be the same as it was in the prior year, but then you make the estimate on what the county assessor's office is going to value the new property that's come into the village through this annexation process or through any other individual annexations that we've done this year. That amount gets estimated. So you will again see the notice that goes into the Clarion. It says a 12.58% increase over the previous year's levy. That percentage is a reference to the total dollar amount and is driven by new property that's added to it because of the way the PTAL laws are written. You take the total estimated dollar amount and calculate what that is, and then there's 3 or 4% if it goes over, or 6%. If it goes over, there's this bold, intimidating advertisement that goes in the newspaper that talks about, but then we issue the qualifier on that that explains to everybody that even though it says the total tax levy is going up by 12.5%, as Pat explained earlier, the estimated rate applied to every existing household is projected to be exactly what the same was before. Does that help you guys?
Yeah, can this information be emailed to us, please? Yes.
It's on board docs, I think, isn't it?
I don't believe it is.
Yeah, I got it.
There's a memo on from Sherry.
Yeah, Sherry's got the full summary on there, but if you are still missing it, we can certainly get you another copy.
Sure.
There'll be a notice. There's an annual hearing. Does she have that up here?
It's here.
So there will be a notice published in the Clarion for November 25th with an annual meeting December 8th prior to the board meeting, and that's the point in time when this levy will be passed. The final rates, always important to remember because the final rates and the final assessed values, which really drive what everybody's real estate tax bill is going to look like, is set by the county assessor's office.
Dave, in our budget presentations in years past, we've had the dollar bill and it's chopped up on the percentage that goes to each area. Like over towards the right, the small sliver, the village of Chatham.
One of the smallest
is one of the smallest. I think that's one of the most interesting things for our citizens to know is that the village of Chatham, which covers the police, which covers the roads, which covers the parks, is one of the smallest and will remain so based on this information.
So in the fact sheet that Sherry puts out, she's got a kind of an estimated what a real estate tax bill, what the village's portion of a real estate tax bill would look like for a $200,000 house. That's $309 is what that would be, the village's share. So that's references that small portion of that dollar bill there, Trustee Scherschel. Yeah, I mean,
That's a choice.
it is a choice. All right.
That is an option.
Anything more you need, Chairman Gerger?
Anybody have any questions on the property tax levy? Okay. I think the biggest thing that takes away from that is that the rate's gonna stay the same on your house for us. For the village, for us. That's it. Okay, revising section 1809 of the 2012 International Building Code to allow for a max 900 square feet without cross footing or light frame construction. Right?
I've had some conversations with both of the garage builders here in town, which are Maddox Garage or Coach House Garage and Bullock Garages. They come to me earlier in the summer because they were kind of concerned that anybody wanting a garage that was over 600 square feet required a frost footing, which is obviously a significant increase in the amount of concrete that you're going to use. So what I did was, with their help, we talked to Sangamon County and we talked to the city of Springfield and found that they had actually made a change to their building code, to the IBC, the International Building Code, which allowed those light framed buildings like a 24 by 24 garage to be as big as 900 square feet without a frost footing. So I wanted to bring this forward tonight because I would like to kind of follow suit there. I think it would help out the citizens that are wanting to build a garage. It would obviously make it a little cheaper for them. And from what I've read and what I know and the conversations I've had, there's really not much difference. I mean, it's like if you poured a slab on grade with a light frame garage, it's not going to heave and it's not going to be like a sidewalk, for example. So I just want to bring that forward, see what you guys thought about it. And if you need some more information, if you got questions, I could try to answer those.
You know how many applications we have for these types of buildings?
Right now, I only have one, and he's kind of waiting, but I'm not even worried about that. That's not why I'm here tonight. Because I told him, and that was a Maddox Garage, I told him, 2 months ago, I said, you're gonna have to give me time, I gotta do some research, I wanna take it in front of the board, find out, where they stand on it.
How much cost savings potentially do you know if I build a 900 square foot garage? Do you know what you're looking at?
I think you're looking at about $4,000.
Is frost footings in this area 3 foot, 36 inches?
36 inches, and usually for light frame construction, like 2x4 building, you're looking at 8 inches wide. Now, this does not include an accessory building or a garage that would be built out of brick or masonry, and it obviously would not include a garage that is attached to the house.
Okay.
Those would still require a frost footing, just like the IBC would call for.
Do we define light frame? Would you define light frame construction in
Light frame construction would be like 2x4 construction.
Correct. But you would define that in ordinance.
Absolutely, yes.
And so again, I know you have one pending, but are these 4-year, 5-year, 28-year?
I'm looking at 3 to 4 year. Most of them are not 24 by 24. Most of them are not 30 by 30, which would be 900 square feet. Most of them are smaller than that, but they're still over that 600 square foot threshold.
Do we also detail how thick the slab has to be?
We do, and that's usually 4 inches.
Jim, does that sound reasonable?
For the slab, yes. In terms of construction, a lot of these builders will do a thick edge on the side of the concrete, around the perimeter to just make up those grades. I mean, they want their products to stand up, because they want to be in business for long term. But for these out-type buildings, I don't see an issue with that.
I guess I kind of misspoke. There is kind of a footing on those slabs that are 6 inches deep around the perimeter.
Right.
It's just not a 4-inch slab of concrete like a sidewalk.
Right.
So, right, and that would be, I would also include that in the ordinance as well. to make sure that that is exactly what I'm looking at when I go out and do an inspection.
So each side, the slab is like this, each side could go down a little bit.
That's typically what you see,
Yeah.
but, you know, as Ryan said, I mean, a lot of these are just, outbuildings or sheds and, you know, backyard type deals,
Right.
but, you know,
Yeah.
anything that would be attached to a house, you want a crossbuilding.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, if we could detail, if we could draft an ordinance that would
Okay.
lock that in.
Okay.
I do believe in that proposed ordinance, you have a limit of 10 feet tall, correct? Is that what?
The wall height cannot be taller than 10 feet. So anything taller than 10 feet at the eaves would then require a frost footing, you know, if it's over 600 square feet.
Because you're gonna have weight.
Correct.
That's good. Any other discussion or questions for Ryan? Are we amenable to have him bring forward the ordinance?
Absolutely.
Yep. We're good with it. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Thanks.
CMT engineering updates?
I got a couple of items here. MFT, street crew, is noted by the Bobcat Rentals, continuing to do patching and concrete work throughout town. A little bit on South Park here, South Park Estates, then moving over to Hertzborn and doing some repairs there. We voted on the bid to accept improvements at Garvey Lane. Talked with the contractor last week. And he is interested in getting that done this year. So obviously weather dependent, but wants to move forward. Concrete does allow us to move into colder weather to do that just because of the heat generated by the concrete. So I don't see any issues with that, but that will be done under a full roadway closure. You know, we'll have the village put out a notice on that as well. But there is plenty of other access routes around that location, and we will coordinate with the schools in terms of bus service at that point.
How long do you think that'll put that on?
Actually, I'd be surprised if it's more than 4 days, you know, week tops. But by the time, it'll take them probably 2 days to dig it out, maybe a half a day to prep it, and then pour the concrete, let it sit. We're using a concrete PB2 match, which is a high early concrete that sets relatively fast. So you're looking at about a day and a half, and you can get traffic back on it. So it'll go quick. And they'll obviously do it when there's a patch of clear weather. They're not going to do it if, well, it's supposed to rain, it'll start today. So we'll be conscious of that. And then the other one too, Oak Brook, I know we've talked about the delays in terms of review from on that project with IDOT in terms of getting some contract bidding documents. You know, Pat and I sat down and talked about that a little bit. You know, we had a section of Oak Brook slated for this year, and then we have a section of Oak Brook slated for next year. What we're going to do with that is combine the two projects. Just because of the way that IDOT works in their bidding and review process, it's really a 2-month process. By the time you get approval, by the time you advertise, by the time you put the notice of award, by the time we review it and approve it here at the village level, by the time we submit it to the state and they concur with the bid, and then the contract's authorized, you know, you're really looking at almost 2.5 week or 2.5 month process, you know, after you have the approved plans. So what we're planning on doing is shooting for having both sets of plans wrapped up into a singular contract, have that ready by the first of the year. We're going to do our MFT program early this year for the 21-22 year, and then what's going to happen as soon as April 30th hits and the new fiscal year rolls over May 1st, put it out to bid and get it out on the street. So we figure that will attract more contractors, better competitive bids on that, rather than just kind of delaying the process another year and just do one next year and then one the following. Since we didn't expend the MFT money this year, we'll just put them both in a singular project next year.
So for next year, our MFT work, about everything we're projected to do for like next summer, we'll do a lot earlier.
Yes.
In the year, so.
Yeah, instead of starting when the MFT program begins in May 1st, what we'll end up doing is having everything bid at that point. So instead of starting the development of the plans at that point, we're going to bid everything at that point and have it done under this fiscal year. So That way we'll just get both of them and, hopefully realize some savings in terms of bidding a larger project. Try to get some better competitive bids on that, and then also still staying on track with getting Oak Brook completed as our original plan was by next year. So.
Again, remind me, do you have the intersections of that for the two separate projects? I know,
It's Peachtree and Acacia. Those are the areas that we're working between.
And that is the combined two projects?
Both projects, yes. We're doing Acacia and then half, and then we're doing Peachtree in the other half. Now we're just gonna do both of them.
And there's no bond or anything we could go after because those roadways failed so quickly?
No, it's beyond the probably statutes of limitation on that. It's been so long since everything's been released and no letter of credit at that point. But,
We're just outside 10 years, right?
correct, but we don't have a letter of credit. So, and looking at what we did on the previous section of Oak Brook, I mean, it is nothing but black topsoil dirt underneath the pavement, and it's no surprise why it's failing. Correct. So we expect to see the same conditions under this one. We're going to replace it with a compacted rock base, pour concrete back in, and provide under drains to provide pavement drainage, because that's another thing that's a problem out there is just water sits in that subgrade, has nowhere to go. You freeze thaw and heave of the pavement. So we'll tie in pavement under drains at the existing inlet locations.
What about any other newer or subdivisions that could be still within that letter of credit? I mean, because I know there's newer subdivisions that.
And that's what we're pursuing with Pat in terms of looking at some of those outstanding letters of credit and looking at latent construction defects. North Point was the one. We're looking at Oak Brook. We're looking at Willows, South Park, and South Park Estates is the other one. So just seeing which ones are open. A lot of those either developers gone default and there's just no one to even argue it, and it's just an open letter of credit. But before we're releasing those letters of credit, we're doing inspections of those subdivisions to see if there are any latent construction defects.
I know this is an awkward question for you, but is there anything with the previous engineering firm and the inspections that they did of any recourse for us?
They were accepted. That's all I can say. Accepted by the village's previous engineers and deemed to be good. And that's part of the reason why we're here is because it played on both sides a little bit, where the developer's engineer was also the village's engineer. So it's.
But would there, and it's probably more of a question for you, Greg, would there, I mean, just like most professional services, they have to have an E&O policy in place.
They would have to have a what policy?
Errors and omissions policy?
What we would have to show is the lack of, just a lack of standard, that they didn't meet what a normal prudent engineer in their case would meet, unless going down the route of there actually being a conflict of interest to the extent or to the degree that it was unfair or beyond harmful to the village.
But, so like black dirt underneath the roadway, would that be a normal standard of care?
So the issue with the black dirt underneath the roadway, in many cases, a lot of municipalities went with that system because what they used was lime modification, or better said, lime stabilization in those locations. And what was happening was they would mix lime with the black dirt and it would form a crust, and it was sufficient enough to pave on. So to anyone going out there, you could go out there, look at that black dirt that's mixed with the lime, and dig your heel into it and go, man, this is pretty good stuff. It's worked out well. It's hard as a rock. Let's go ahead and pave. So under that procedure, it seemed okay. But over the course of freeze thaws over several cycles with moisture in the ground, it breaks down. So by the time you go and repair that roadway, there's no evidence of lime, or very limited evidence of lime. So when we dug up the previous section of Oak Brook a few years ago, one would expect sheets of, stabilized topsoil, if you will, that would be coming up as they're removing the roadway, almost looking like pavement itself, and there was very little of that. Evidence that it was limed, but it just didn't hold up. So I think it was more of a recommendation of that material or that process, or it didn't work.
It's not an expensive lawsuit we probably lose.
That was a state standard at one point. And wasn't that one of the,
That was a state standard.
wasn't that one of the state's approved road construction for like a 5-year period, and then everybody quickly figured out that it wasn't holding up here?
Well, no, there's a difference between line stabilization and line modification. So line stabilization is you just want to stabilize the current soil, in situ soil, and be able to work or have a construction platform. Line modification is a process in which everything is laboratory based. They collect samples. It's a specific content of rock, sand, clay that reacts with the lime. Percentages of lime are calculated out based on those soil samples. Strength testing is done on that, and it's done to a depth of anywhere from a foot to 2 foot before paving. So like Route 29, we were involved with that from Springfield all the way down to Taylorville. All that realignment 4-lane expressway was done with lime modification. And that is a very in-depth process, a very lengthy process to be able to stabilize those soils. And in many cases, a lot of the existing soil has to be removed, new soil trucked in, just to be able to react with that lime. So that actually provides structural stability, whereas the lime stabilization is just, let's get a crust on that so we can get equipment on it or whatever. So it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of false pretenses. You think you're paying for one, but you're getting the other. Obviously, one's very cheap to do, or cheaper to do than the other one. And, you know, it kind of goes back to the whole growth of Chatham. Growth in Chatham was easy because maybe standards were relaxed, or maybe conditions weren't held, you know, to a high standard.
And that construction method is no longer available in our code, is correct?
Exactly, and that's when we changed over to rock. So what we saw was Iron Bridge subdivision was the first one that we switched over, and we ended up doing, you know, more in-depth testing associated with that, and then we moved to rock moving forward. So it's a better product that's going to last. The other thing too is, you know, doing proper testing, improving the subgrade, doing proof rolls. That's one thing that we talked about early on with these subdivisions. You know, we go out there, we have a loaded semi drive on a compacted base, and we only expect this much deflection with a compacted base, no stabilization, no modification to it, just purely compaction. A loaded semi is only deflecting this much. Then you throw rock on top of that, run a semi again. Then you throw 6 inches of pavement on top of that. So you're getting no deflection at that point. So it's that process to make sure that you guys have roads that are going to last. So it's just enforcement, good practices, good design. So another item that's a little bit more recent, actually sat down with Pat and Dustin here today. You know, in light of the recent water main break over here by the S-curve, you know, there's some difficulties in terms of trying to isolate that break and trying to get water shut off to be able to do the repairs. You know, the first one is location of the water main and getting good, accurate locations of where those are at, because in many cases, a lot of those are estimated if they were put in years and years and years ago. And then the other one is trying to isolate that water main with the maps. Now, the village has a phenomenal GIS system that is continually updated based on findings out in the field. But with a lot of that stuff that was originally probably digitized in based on available records, you know, you only have what you have until you can either build it new again or dig it up and investigate it. So, you know, what we saw was a boil order for about half Ivy Glen subdivision as a result of trying to isolate that. Yes, in Manor Hill. So what ended up happening is, you know, start shutting off valves that tie to this system, and that doesn't work. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. So, you know, a couple of things that are kind of on the target list is, you know, look at some of these areas that are known trouble problems or known question marks where we don't know which valve shut off which lines, where there could be cross lines, where we don't exactly know the operation of the system. We have it modeled. We have it based off the GIS mapping, which is the best available. But there's some still concerns to be able to isolate those quickly, efficiently, and get the work done. So one of the things that we're going to look at is a couple of these problem areas and getting what we call a SUE contractor in here, a subsurface utility investigator in here to locate some of these lines and take a look at that and find out where the errors are in some of our mapping to provide better tools for the water department in these emergency situations. The other thing too that we're looking at is the pipe that was hit due to a utility conflict was a old transite pipe that are brittle. So we're looking at, you have a 12-inch main and you have an 18-inch main that feeds back to the tower. So looking at how do we loop that system around in the event that there is a break either on the 18 or on that 12 to make sure that we're covered, because at the time of that break, you know, your water tower drained like that. So, you know, making sure that we have the reliability, that we're not in a position where we're going to have to put the entire town on a boil order because of a water main break. So we're looking at some looping connections throughout the village. You know, one is going up Gordon Drive to loop in a 10-inch main. Another one is cutting across to Magnolia, across the open field there in the middle of town to make a connection there, so we can backfeed water from different locations and eliminate some of these dead ends. So that's one thing that we'll be pulling together some numbers on and presenting to Pat and Dustin for their consideration, and then an ultimate present to the board.
The utility contractor hit the main, is that what
It was, yes.
Not us?
No.
Yeah. Are we subrogate against them then?
We can't. It was located too far away from where the actual main was.
So part of the investigation of pinning down where these mains actually are, some of the older stuff that was built in the 50s and 60s that the only records that you have are what was sketched on old Mylars and wasn't tied in. So I mean, the village has a phenomenal system in terms of the GIS, better than most communities I've ever seen, but it's only as good as the data that it was originally created on. So any new stuff is being picked up, as it's being put in, but some of the old stuff is just based off of record maps, and I think it's here, it might be here, it gets marked, it's a plastic pipe, you can't trace it, it didn't have tracer wire, so you can't find a location other than we think it's here on the map. So some of these problem areas we want to pin down and investigate and make sure that those are operating the way that we think they are.
The transite 12-inch that got hit, it's a concrete pipe, and it goes together in pieces, kind of like you'd see a sewer pipe, and the little knuckle up at the top. That's what they hit. They didn't drill through the pipe. They drilled right along the side, hit the knuckle, and caused the thing to weaken and bust. And
so other than that.
Well, it's not a one-year project. We're putting together a list of things that
that's what
spread
we're
out.
looking at, phased out plan moving forward and identifying where maybe some of the weak points are, the vulnerability points are in terms of providing reliable service. So
And all municipalities are going to be dealing with this.
yes, aging infrastructure. So as pipes start going down and you start getting more and more breaks, it's how do you replace it? Where's your backup? How do you do that? With good service. So even looking at the transite pipe, one of the options may be putting more valves on that pipe to be able to isolate that from the 18-inch pipe. So, so you can work on it and still maintain service. So, that's all I had. Any questions?
Yeah, any update on the village electrical shed, water, drainage issue?
I know, I'm still working on it. Thank you.
And there's your piece of pipe in there on that table. Floor meetings? We're having a meeting. They're having a Zoom meeting Thursday to discuss it.
Thank you. Village manager update?
Yep. I've got junk week. We went through 25 dumpsters that Saturday.
Pat, hang on, just, Mr. Reeds, there's nothing that makes you stay here if you're not interested. We're not going to be upset if you.
I've been getting in the car for another 3 hours, I'm happy.
Okay, I didn't want you to feel like you were obligated to sit through engineering reports and everything. All right, sorry, Pat.
Street department's back doing MFT work, after doing work on Ptarmigan and then moving over to Park View subdivision. They are now, at the entrance to Hurstbourne, right off of Gilreath, and have started to do repairs along Hurstbourne Lane from Gilreath towards, Gordon Drive. So that'll take through the rest of this, construction season. Some of the cutouts are a little bigger than the ones on Fox Creek, so it takes a couple days for them to be able to cut it out, put the rock in there, put in the, yeah, the guys do a really good job. They do a really good job. That's good. They trimmed some trees, along Cypress and Timber Hill, which pleased the residents, which will hopefully keep some power outages in that area from happening. The Mansion Road project, where we were going to run electric down Route 4 and then down Mansion Road to tie into Prairie Vista. The wire is taking longer to get than what we'd expected. We had originally thought it was going to be here in October. Now they're saying it won't be delivered till December. So we still plan on moving forward with that. CWLP has a contractor working on the transmission line from the Spalding substation down to our independent sub. That's going on here in November.
When do they expect to have that one complete?
Well, I think they thought they'd be done by now, but maybe another week. Let's see what else. That's all I got.
I just got a couple of questions.
Sure.
I've received some inquiries and just want to clarify things. So utility shutoffs, can you tell us what kind of communications have been given to the utility office and then to village residents as far as how we're doing utility shutoffs?
We've put that out on webpage. It went out on Facebook.
Published.
Yeah, it was published, and then in the newspaper. We've been using that call system to be able to call residents. When they get that, go ahead.
For the call system, they attempt 3 contacts.
Uh-huh.
Now, what if the number was entered incorrectly into the system? What's the protocol? And what if there's no voicemail or answer or anything?
Yeah, on that one there, when they went out to shut it off, the resident's dog kept the guy from getting in the backyard. So they looked in another location, found a cell phone number, called him, told him what was going on. He said he didn't get a call. When the girl in the office took a look, she saw that it was missing 1 digit in the phone number. So
shouldn't the system have a kickback of failures? I remember you asking about that.
it may have.
Could we get a report of message failures?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
And then the other.
Well, I think, real quick, I think the concern is just that, basically, we went through these measures, the website, Facebook, published it in the newspaper, and I don't think that the story that I heard was that the guy really, he wasn't dodging responsibility
Not at
as
all.
much as, saying, hey, look, I know I should have paid, but I just felt like if I had heard this story correctly, that we couldn't find this guy's phone number through the system and the system's failed. So our ability to notify the customer failed. But then when the dog got in the way, then we suddenly found the number. It just felt like if we had a list of failures and could do whatever was within reasonable means to notify those 50 failures, then maybe that's one less house that would have been shut off. You know, so I think.
And I know, the staff over there has been attempting to do that. I don't know what happened on this one, but we sent out 400 calls for shut off, okay? And when it come down to it, we shut off 112 residents, okay? So the phone system is working because we got almost 300 people to call in and pay their bill, okay? And that was all within essentially one day, okay? Then we broke up over the next few days the process of shutting people off. As of today, we still have 11 residents out of that 112 that are shut off. Now, of that, last month we had 3 deceased, 4 empty, and 7 were occupied. If nothing has changed on that, and of that 11, we might have 4 residents that are still shut off this evening. So the system is working. Is it completely foolproof? No.
Right. No,
But it's only been 2 months.
Right, and I understand that. I just think that, you know, if the Navy has 9 digits, the call's not even an outpulse. So maybe the last number was wrong, but if the last number was missing, there's no way the system could even outpulse the call.
Exactly.
No, there should be a report available.
Yeah, and we've seen the reports. They go back and look at them. So they've been trying to solve those. So they go through and solve them. They may not have got to this guy yet to solve this problem. In the end, he paid the bill. We didn't have to shut him off.
The other thing that seems to be confusion about is, does the Village of Chatham offer payment plans?
We did. If you signed a payment plan back before 2 months ago, there's a payment plan. Going forward now, any new bills, there are no more payment plans.
And that's consistent with even the ones in the payment plan that shut up. One of the terms that they had that got put in front of you was you pay your current month plus a portion of whatever the back due was. So that's consistent. So if you didn't need one, 2 months ago, your situation would be the same. It's pay the current month plus whatever was back due. If there's no back due, it's just paid back.
Sorry, I'm confused. Like, I don't remember ever having discussed the elimination of the payment plan.
Me neither.
We did not have one prior to the stay-at-home order.
Yeah, it was when you
We
accept.
definitely did, because I've heard and I've spoken and I've tried to help residents that were on the payment plan and weren't able to keep up with it. So now they can't get on a new one. So I know there have been payment plans.
There have been payment plans in the past, but when you guys accepted the new customer service manual, in there, the payment plans were removed.
Yes.
Send it back out.
But the customer service manual is when we're operating in regular times. We can all agree that this is not regular times. And you have the ICC giving guidance not to shut anybody off until summer now. And I know we don't have to follow their guidelines.
Their guidance is LIHEAP eligible.
Correct, but we also should be looking at, we should be promoting all the different programs, but we should also be, I would think, looking at payment plans, but I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
I mean, if someone is, with a payment plan, that is someone that is wanting to do what they can. And it's not someone just saying, I'm not gonna bother paying.
Correct.
It is someone that is attempting to pay forward, not making it harder on themselves by just completely delaying all payments to later, which I know just makes it harder for themselves. A payment plan, I think, allows them to at least work toward keeping their utilities on and paying towards what they owe.
I've been telling people to call the utility office and work it out with them. And they can do that, right? They can.
Well, see, that's where the confusion is. I mean,
can't
we've been telling people
Is what they're saying.
that, and have been, so people have called in, we could work with them, been working with them through COVID. Well, it hasn't ended. I mean, that, I haven't known us to enter a new period. In fact, you know.
Okay, so
we're
if
doing
somebody-
mitigation, So what are we telling them then?
Exactly.
I thought
What do we tell
though that we just talked about it where if you had a previous balance and you're about to be shut off, you enter a payment plan and the payment plan is to pay the current month and 1/12 of what you owe. And that you do that for the next 12 months or.
Right.
That's a payment plan.
And it's supposed to, and it had to start 2 months ago, and it's over with by March. Okay, that's when they're all caught up.
There's no new ones.
There is no new ones after that. And these folks that are shut off here are either folks that could not pay this month's bill or failed to meet their requirement on the payment plan. That's it. They're only behind 1 month, or they failed to meet the requirement of what they agreed to pay, their current bill plus 1/6 of or 1/8 of what they had as a balance.
Well, to me, the payment plans are kind of a double-edged sword. Because number one, if you can't afford to pay your bill this month, what makes you think you can pay by signing an agreement? So you can pay this month's bill or next month's bill plus part of next month's bill. You can't. I mean, simple math says you cannot. If you don't have enough this month to pay last month's bill, and then you're adding part of that bill into this month, and the goal or what you're supposed to do is pay the current month plus part of last month.
Right, if you're
So,
already.
hang on.
So you're not,
Before you get to, what was the number that are total that are left to solve?
There's still 11 shut off, and if three deceased and 4 empty are the same, you're down to 4 residents. And they've been off for, since
Well, no.
6 days.
And just to be perfectly clear, I'm very capable of simple math. But however, not everyone's salaries or revenues are consistent. You might be a salesman that gets paid quarterly. You might be someone who's about to win the lottery tomorrow, which is what I am. But
You may adjust your days.
It can be
yeah,
instant.
there's a lot of different factors that I think it's just important for us to keep in mind that not everyone looks and smells and talks like me. And I think not having a payment option, payment plan during COVID, I think is a mistake.
Does our utility office refer them to resources, these 4 people, let's say?
They do.
Okay, so they do help by providing.
Yes.
Because there are resources out
So
there.
to do that, you guys would need to propose what it is. To be able to give them a tool to be able to use, you would have to actually make a proposal and say, here's what we want to do, and then pass it as the board.
But-
Because what's in their current handbook right now, that was approved, doesn't allow for that. And that's what they're working. So you got to give them the tool you want them to be able to use.
I mean, that's what you guys wanted, right? So what's gonna be the resistance to a new proposal that we bring forward?
Well, I think the thing that you ought to look at is, since we're moving into the winter season, utility bills should be much lower. Air conditionings aren't running, water.
But also it's more critical when you shut somebody off.
Well,
Can't.
you can't.
we do not shut off after 32 degrees.
I know that.
So, but trustee Matt will sit there and say, hey, it doesn't matter, it's still gonna be tough no matter what. We're gonna make the simple math, it's just gonna be hard on them through the winter months.
But as Matt just stated, if it's 32 or below, we can't shut them off.
It doesn't go away.
And my whole point is, you can't continue to kick a can down the road, month after month after month after month. You just stated COVID's not over. What if it's not over for 5 years? Are you gonna continue to kick that can down the road every single month? And the village or the people that do pay their bills on time have to pay for those bills?
I know it's just.
Is that what the plan, is that what you wanna do, trustee?
For poor people, I would willing. Yes. For poor people, I would.
Well, you would be willing.
Go on, Brett.
That's you. But when there's other programs like LIHEAP and other things across that the counties and other people provide, we should be directing them towards those.
And we still should. We're not saying we
Yeah,
should.
it's not the village's responsibility or the people of this village to pay for those.
But
Period.
I'm just saying, it's simple weather, you know,
And it's simple
they
math.
shut off, when it gets cold, and we understand that, but when it's tough economically, we're gonna say,
So
shut off then.
we'll draft, we'll make a proposal of the change to the handbook, and then we can vote on it, and everybody can have their say and piece, and we can move on from there. Next piece, I would ask is about communication with the village regarding COVID. What have we communicated regarding the COVID to the employees?
Gave them and their union stewards copies of our COVID policy.
Do you know when we gave it to them?
It was updated on 9/28.
Okay.
Originally, here's the
So-
second with the September update.
It's been updated more than once.
All right, so it looks as though it was implemented 4/2
Mm-hmm.
of 2020, and they would have all received that. Do they receive it personally, hand, or by email?
No, we hang it on the bulletin boards in their work areas,
Okay.
and then make the stewards aware that they need to let their staff know that this is the policy.
And then it was updated 9/28/2020. As far as what we do, like, so with the school, with my kids, if somebody at GMS got COVID, we all get an email that says, somebody at the school, we're not gonna name them, somebody at the school got COVID, and if you were a close contact, you will be contacted by public health, whatever it may be. Do we do anything of that in communication-wise?
As far as
When we have a positive COVID case?
out to the public or within
No,
the
to
staff?
the employees.
The
Tell
people
the employees that there's been a positive case.
in the department, yes.
Okay, so if somebody, and I'm randomly picking a department,
We pick the police.
police. So if the police had somebody, only the police would be notified?
If that person only has contact with them, yes,
Because, I mean, the village employees all can come in here, right?
they can.
So wouldn't it be prudent to send that communication to all employees? Just saying, you can't name them, that's HIPAA. But shouldn't we tell them that there's been a positive case, and should you have been, do we contact public health when we have a positive case?
That's gonna be my question.
Well, we always thought that the public health would contact us when that person turned around, because,
Right.
we have contacts with people outside, and we've got no contact whatsoever from the county saying that any of our people have to quarantine other than one employee.
So, but what I'm saying, so the police officer goes and tests positive for COVID. Public health knows, and they don't contact you in a certain period of time. Wouldn't you contact them that we have a positive case? Is there anything we need to do?
I follow the policy that we have.
Once they're positive, don't they go to, that goes through the hospital then, and then that's reported to the public health department? That's how I thought the chain worked.
Correct, but public health
They're not always
reaches out to
tested
the
in the hospital,
employers.
so.
True, or any health organization comes up with a positive
Right.
test, aren't they obligated to report it to the Department of Public Health?
And the only reason this is a very sensitive case right now, because we are essential, we're an essential function, so to speak, so our rules are different. Like, has it been communicated, what's been communicated to employees about social distancing, masks, hand washing? Do we have wipes and stations everywhere? When we do have a positive case, are we deep cleaning? Where we have a professional cleaning company come in and deep clean it in the area that the affected employee would have been in contact with?
We have a cleaning service that comes in every day.
But do they deep,
I don't know what the difference between cleaning and deep cleaning is, Brett.
okay.
I know local businesses, if they do, they have, there's an extra layer of chemicals and defoggers and things that they've had to do where
it'd be something overnight where.
The schools do mention some special kind of cleaning.
Correct, and that, so whenever you get
And
the
I
email
think it's
from the
probably a
school that says there
disinfecting
was
part
a
on this.
student and
Yes.
we deep cleaned the
I know what you're talking
infected area wherever they were in the building, it's been totally deep.
No, if they do, they're very, very clear with their communication and what's been done with the area.
It really,
And,
so I'm
so
just,
you're getting
I
at
wonder
that.
if the employee, because
Mm.
myself, and I know somebody else on the board has been reached out to by the way that they're not getting any communication about any of the COVID stuff. And I just want to make sure we are, because it's a pretty big liability if we're not.
So the advantage that we have here, the way that the departments are set and the way that everybody's been isolated, as people are staying in their departments and the electric crew stays working out of their stuff, it's real quick to tell who your contacts have been. So beyond that close contact, where there's a concern or where there's a spot that says, look, you know, you need to be alerted to this stuff, that kind of communication happens if somebody is at risk to it. But beyond that, if you get in a staff the size of ours and you start saying, you know, here it is, you've disclosed the status. It's too fast and too quick. So we have reviewed what our procedures have been with our legal team, who continues to advise that the procedures we have, they endorse and think are thorough. The cleaning process and that, you know, the deep clean stuff that you see advertised on that stuff, there's a lot of PR behind that kind of announcement, and it's considerably different than what you actually.
So you're saying that they don't deep clean, so the school's telling me they deep clean?
Some of that process is just reassuring to the public. If you're constantly admitting people in and out of a surface, and, you know, I say something just the same as, you know, if you threw up, you know, we tell everybody, yes, you know, very much, you don't have
We
to
should
step
check
there
into
because
what
we
the
cleaned up after.
What do they mean
You know, and
by that?
so there's
I
certainly an
understand
element
that
to
extra.
that when somebody's making that kind of public.
Well, there's legitimate different equipment that's coming in. I mean, I've seen it.
It's not, it may do something to, it may do nothing to COVID, but I know it's a different process.
Right.
It's a disinfectant.
Yeah, just an extra.
Have we reviewed this plan with the Sangamon County Department of Public Health?
We've not had
Our
any.
policy?
We've not had any issue that we've been instructed that we needed to do anything before. Yeah.
Can we just email this to all the employees? It seems simple. Just that way we could have evidence that, you know, we gave it to Brett on Wednesday the 3rd and.
So like, how do we treat somebody that's,
So we are emailing, sorry, we capable of emailing, thank you.
and then, so like, somebody does test positive, and I test positive, I was in close contact with Paul. You said they're all separated, isn't our electrical, streets, and water, aren't those guys all together in the same building?
No.
They're not close at all?
Well, they're close. But, you know, I've got a couple in my department.
Okay.
But you also want to protect from a HIPAA violation, you also want to protect your employee. And it
Right.
goes around real quick whenever someone's been, or someone is suspected of having COVID.
Well, at the school, we all know what kid got it, because they're not there for 2 weeks.
And that's a
But
shame.
They don't.
Because that's not what it's designed for, but we have had a company come in and do high-touch areas on one occasion.
Okay.
You know, we're essential, we can't just shut everything down when we have someone
But,
that's.
but it's essential, there's more of an onus on us for work comp insurance. There's more of an onus because we are rebuttable presumption, and that's till June 30th now.
And everyone's notified whenever an employee is or has been tested positive for COVID, the employees are notified.
But not all the employees.
Not all
Yeah,
employees.
no, I've been-
My employees, when I say my employees, the police department.
Right, so, but I've been given the impression that employees aren't told.
Well,
Well,
And is that,
whoever told you that,
that is not true?
well, it all depends. If they're in a department that has not had a person test positive for COVID, then there is most likely that they were not told that anybody has tested positive.
So
If none of their coworkers have tested positive, what am I supposed to tell them? That
So if I'm
somebody in another department did?
If I'm in the water, you would say a village employee, I mean, just like the school does, I don't even have a student in elementary, we get the notifications at the elementary school. We get them all. You would tell, because it affects the whole district, and you have employees that, you know, the water guy and another guy, they may see each other outside of here. And you're not telling the one, and he has contact with. It would be nice if we just had, Greg, I mean, do you think we shouldn't do a notification?
What I've been advising, and I have been a part of this advising process, is to keep it with the department, to keep it so, you know, everybody who's working with each other, so they know. But what I didn't want the village to begin to undertake is a process where we become the contract tracers, because we're not experienced in that. And so once you get into, you know, are we gonna go cross department, then you gotta look at, all right, who's off, what if they were, you know, what if they were meeting outside, who's
But
off?
if you just send a blanket one to all village employees, a village employee has tested positive, you don't even have to say what department.
Oh, wait,
And if you're gonna be,
Give me a single out real quick then.
so then you're gonna say, if you were a direct contact, you'll be notified by public health, and then why wouldn't we, when we find out that employee's been tested positive, why wouldn't we inform public health?
Well, I
It would be up to them to contact
Well,
tracers.
we take it a little farther than that. We had a person the other day, took a test, came back positive, worked with 4 other individuals. As soon as I found out, I went straight to those 4 people and told them all that a person in their department had tested positive. They said, what should I do? I said, I would like for you to get a test after 4 days. The union contract allows me to send them home that day, and I pay them for going home. The rest of the time, they're on their own time. Then they get the test. If the test comes back negative, they can come back to work. If the test comes back positive, they're on quarantine for 2 weeks.
And is that CDC guidelines?
That's a part of our internal procedure.
Okay.
For exposure.
So for work comp purposes, you know, the bill says if you're not following public health or CDC guidelines, then you have a rebuttable presumption. So if somebody were to get it here, if somebody were to get it, if an employee were to get it, they can claim it was here now.
I understand that, but my recommendation has been along these lines, because to follow CDC guidelines for essential workers, what the village can't have is, we have very small departments, and we can't send our entire electrical department. And so this is the best balancing act we've been able to come up with so far, and I don't have any water around me, but it's worked to an extent. It's apparent we have a communication issue, but as far as the COVID and keeping it out of the village and out of the village departments, we've been successful, and to a much better extent than a lot of communities.
Sure.
And so again, we're balancing, but I think in departments of this size, to follow CDC guidelines to a T when it comes to an exposure, I think is too difficult. So this is the balance that we've had to come up with. And if there's a workers' comp issue, then we'll deal with that when it comes along.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from anybody else? So we can get this email to employees, the COVID thing. Do we you don't want to recommend contacting public health when we have a positive?
Well, when we have, it's my understanding that when we have a positive, public health is notified because there's a positive test. So I think public health will already know, and then I believe that, you know, it's on, they've got the contract tracing programs that will go through, and they'll go through their steps. Now, you know, have their steps been the best the last few weeks?
Correct.
It's my opinion, they have not been as they were in prior weeks, and I would assume that's because we've had this recent surge. But, you know, when my assumption is, and I believe what all the information says is, once there's a positive test, public health's going to know about it. They're going to receive that test, and then they start their procedure.
Okay.
I can tell you a couple instances that my department members tested positive for. A note was mailed to the employee, and the employee then emailed it to me from stating that this person has tested positive for COVID.
Okay, good.
Now, from the contact tracing standpoint,
They didn't check any further. No. That's probably why we're seeing a use or.
And that's why we're trying to send people home right away. As soon as we find out, even if they feel fine,
Right.
go home, stay home for 4 days, get a test. If it's clear, you can come back to work.
We pay for 4 days, or we pay for the day you get sent home?
pay for up to 2 weeks.
You can get paid for up to 2 weeks. Our policy is you're paid for the day that you go home, but the rest of the time is on your own.
So real
But
quick,
in a way, you are getting paid because you earn sick time. So they're using their sick days that they've accumulated here. They get a sick day a month, and most people have hundreds of hours on the books. So for them having to stay home for an additional 3 days to keep from making sure that any of their coworkers get this or they're sure. So they're not,
just asking for
in
clarification.
all
So
instances.
on Monday, I'm declared positive. Brett was working in my squad car. You guys get notified at noon on Monday, and you say, hey, Brett, you gotta go home, man. We're gonna pay you for today. Don't come back until Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
And get a test.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are unpaid.
They're paid,
With his sick.
but they're using their
Yeah, but
own
using my,
sick time.
using it benefit.
Yeah.
Sick time.
Yeah.
For medical.
Right.
But you're making me go home.
Right. It's a difference.
It says in the union contract, I can make a person go home for 1 day.
Yeah.
With pay.
For 1 day. Well, you're also saying you can't come back tomorrow. You can't come back on Tuesday.
Have you had anybody fight you when you said, I think you should go home and isolate to be able to get a test?
I had two guys said, I don't want to use any of my sick time, I want to save it for when I retire. And they want to come to work. Now it falls on me. Am I the guy that makes this guy come to work? Or let him come to work when he's been exposed?
We've had possible exposure.
Yeah.
Right, no, I have to say no, it's because we just, the liability is huge. So
But
whatever-
what do I do then when somebody just wants 2 weeks off?
Well, whatever we can do to be consistent.
Because that will happen too.
That's why Greg has this policy.
Yeah.
That's where he follows.
So but if everybody knows the policy,
Well,
And what Greg has written is rooted both in the FFCRA, the Department of Labor, Federal Department of Labor's definitions of what is essential and what is emergency response workers. It's all tied into those things. So all those items have been dressed into to run through to the best of the ability in a situation where nobody's ever really dealt with. Here's how we think we can handle this and how we should handle it. Now, that's going to take both effort on the village side and it takes effort on the employee side. And that's no different than what's been asked of every single person, in the state, county, the country, is you have to take some responsibility in here for this too. And it's not on everybody else to continue to take care of you if you've had a spot where you may be sick. This is the year to use your sick time. That's been asked of everybody since March. Do not be shy to use sick time. If you think even the most, minute thing is wrong with you, use your sick time and out of an abundance of caution and care for the people that you work with and that you live next to, use it, get out, figure out what's going on before you get back into doing it. So it becomes a really weird conversation to start to have with people where you're saying in the middle of a pandemic, you're going to argue with me about the fact that you may have a highly contagious virus, but you don't want to use the sick time that is a benefit of yours provided exactly for this reason when you may be sick, to use your time so that you don't infect other people because you want to just save it for when you're going to retire. And that's a weird conversation to be having right now in the midst of all this stuff. So it takes common sense people on both sides of this argument. So we have a policy here and to sit and debate on whether somebody should use the sick time when they're potentially infected in this. I remain baffled that we're even having this conversation. It should be everybody's responsibility. You have a sick benefit to use
no
in medical
one's
issues.
going without their paycheck.
No, I think we're debating on the communication part, and then also what we're doing to mitigate it. So, like, Chief, you said you did some deep touch cleaning where, when you had some positives, have we done that in any other area where there's positives?
No.
Nothing yet has been traced as sourced here. It's all that coming in from
Oh, somebody's got it somewhere else, and then they're telling us later that, hey, I went to a family party and.
But they could have come into work and not showing symptoms and spreading the virus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we?
But we're relying on an employee to be upfront and honest with us.
And shouldn't we deep clean wherever they've been?
Well,
Greg, we'll get you.
People is everybody in their own trucks. It's your truck. Stay in that truck. If you come to your office, stay in your office. If you turn around and go around the office, they clean the doors, they clean the handles, they clean all the tops of these tables and stuff every single night. But each person needs to be responsible for their own safety. If you were so concerned that because someone touched that microphone, I'm not going to go up and touch that microphone if I'm thinking that I'm going to get it. I'm going to take that, wipe it off, and then if you want to grab it, you can. But if you were worried about me touching it, you should grab one and wipe it off. And that's what I'm trying to get each person here to do. Be responsible for yourself. Don't count on somebody else to clean it for you, because they're all going to clean it at different standards. You know, we have an exercise building that people use. And they're like, well, how are we going to do this? I said, before you get on any piece of equipment or do anything down there, wipe it down to your satisfaction. Not the guy that's going to come and use it behind you, your satisfaction. Then it's clean to your satisfaction. If you don't care whether you get COVID, you just get right on it.
It should be both. Like, you should care about the next person. I just got that.
But-
I get what you're saying, but I'd say,
Yeah.
you know, I would say,
But if
clean
you
up after yourself. You should, from an exercise gym, you should always clean up after yourself, but also the next person. But
If they're worried, they should get on there and clean it again. And that's the way that I've tried to preach this all the way through. All of the departments have antiseptic, all of them have gloves, all of them have masks. They all have all that stuff. They can clean their cars every single day.
I just don't, when it comes to liability issues, there's not, we can't say, well, that's on them. It's gonna, the question's gonna be from an arbitrator is, what did you do to mitigate the risk?
Greg, you're still comfortable?
I am. I'll look into the CDC deep cleaning guidelines, what we should do, but from a liability standpoint, especially from our personnel policy and the decisions that we're making, when there is a positive, and if you look at the policy, it's first is leave, but then if there is a positive, if you think that if you're experiencing symptoms, or somebody in your family is experiencing symptoms, and that is really the list that we're going by, and I'm comfortable with that.
Anybody have anything else? All right, next is the utility shutoffs. We kind of already went through that, and Pat kind of showed that there is, it seems that the system is working. We've had a couple of hiccups, but we will provide some language for the employee manual. Leaf pickup, this is really on here because somebody reached out, and it's not that I think leaf pickup should change. It's just, I don't know if it's been clear that this person wanted to opt out, and I'm like, I don't think I don't think we can opt out.
Okay.
Because it's a program fee, like, so, you know, there's some neighborhoods that don't even have trees yet, but they're still paying it because it's a value to the village of Chatham to have a cleanup. And it happens 2 times a year, and, you can kind of go into, I mean, the leaves fall at different times, so they try to set the dates to where they go over the 2 times it takes them longer.
The company that we hired last year, I think they did a fantastic job. They did the last Monday of November or the first in December, and then 2 weeks later they went through the town again. What they do is they just send trucks down here, and some people will put out 100 bags, other people will put out 1. They'll pick them all up. It doesn't make any difference if there's 100 sitting there or whether there's 1. They'll go through the town and grab them. Okay?
I might have frustrated the girls in the office when I called in, if so, I apologize. But my thing is, like November, middle of November,
Mhm.
I know trees fall, different things. There's some people that their leaves are hanging on until December, okay? I hauled off 25 bags at my house in Oak Brook the other day. My daughter lives in Old Chatham. I took 86 bags from her yard. Because if she lets them sit there, that's a lot of money for a young kid. Okay, if she lets them sit there and they get wet and stuff, when they do come later in the year, they pick them up, and the bottom falls out, they don't pick that up.
Well, Waste Management did last year.
She had nice big old piles we had to go pick up.
Sir, can I get your name?
Daniel Bailey?
Randall Bailey?
Daniel.
Daniel, thank you.
We try to find the sweet spot. We only get them to go through the town completely 2 times. So,
Each season,
Huh?
fall and spring.
in the spring and in the fall. And if we picked one of them up earlier and then tried to do it later,
That'd be great to me.
well, I'm not sure. The thing is, they would drive around town and maybe pick up maybe 500 bags, okay? But then when they do the second one, it might be 5,000 bags. So they try to turn around and essentially stay busy for almost a month of going around and picking up bags. But if you call it too soon, the leaves are still green, they haven't fallen. Today was a big day for us, a lot of leaves fell, you know, but
Would that company let you, do they have a site where they dump them?
they do, but it's,
Would they let a person haul them there?
It's not in the contract.
no, it's not in the contract to do that.
We tried to get them to do that. They wouldn't, they wouldn't budge.
So that's the fee is small, but the fee includes dumpster, days. the-
Branches everywhere.
That's what I said, the girls in the office educated me some, because they told me more what the green fee covers.
Right. But it's
I
not.
have a problem, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. And I know that the village staff tries to do their best to guess when major portion of the leaves are gonna fall.
Old Chatham held on to their leaves longer, and there's a few of them.
You know,
I can tell you that with this program, that there's a lot of, we had a room full of people and everyone in it wanting to keep it. And a lot of the reason was when it was originally started, to prevent, leaf burning, because that was becoming a huge problem. So this is the continuation of that to prevent, leaf burning.
One of the things that I thought about the other day is maybe when we do this again, instead of just putting leaf bags out there and telling people to go through town, whoever gets the contract supplies us with stickers, and we send so many stickers to each house. Now, you said your daughter had 35?
No, she had 86.
86. Doubt very much you're going to get 86 stickers, okay? So if we go that route, we're going to be sending stickers to houses that have no trees and no reason. And then those are going to get thrown away, or there's, yeah.
Or the for sale market is gonna be hot.
Aren't the stickers picked up by individual waste haulers?
Yeah, but if we wanted to go a separate route, that, hey, these are Chatham, free stickers, or essentially, because you paid into the green program, you get so many stickers.
Right, so you're gonna have to have a contract with all the waste haulers.
No, you would still have one company come through, but it would be a special Chatham sticker and not the waste hauler sticker, okay? But once I thought about that, I was like, no, that's not gonna work, because there's just some of the older neighborhoods and stuff, it's got so many bags.
Right. And
But to get back to you guys talking about the roads in Oak Brook, I was glad to hear they're gonna do something with them, because, when they were put in, they weren't put in right.
Yes, you're that whole, all right, move forward.
That's not new.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming tonight. So the LEAP program is what it is, and what are the dates? Can we remind people what the dates are?
November 30th.
November 30th, and again on Monday, December the 14th.
Thank you. public property and recreation committee discussion, do we?
Yeah, we met last night,
I had one more thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
It kind of falls under the leaf bag. The branch pile, the burn pile, we have a contract with that company through January the 3rd. We have to give them written notice that we want them to continue to do it. They have to give us written notice that they don't want to do it. Do we want to continue that, or are you guys considering not allowing stuff to be dropped down there?
I know I've received a report on how often people are going out there.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still enforcing where people come get a permit through the utility office to use it?
I don't know.
I can answer that, no.
Yeah.
Because it's next to impossible.
So, I mean, my question is, because you could see how it was used, and then it was a huge drop-off in the report, but that's partially why, you know, people aren't going in to get the permit, and is it locked?
The gate is locked, but now they dump it at the entrance to the gate.
Do we have security?
We have a security camera there, yeah.
Do we presume when we?
Well, we allow dumping down there, so as long as.
But not outside the gate.
We have to now, because if we allow them inside the gate, it turns into bags, it turns into couches, it turns into everything else. So with this being outside the gate, at least we pick up license plate numbers.
No, we don't have to allow that. That's obviously.
We don't have a guardian at the gate.
Is National Tree picking up the school's limbs as well?
Well, that's what we told the school district, to no longer take their branches down there and to leave them at a certain location in Chatham, and they would go by and pick them up that's on school property. So.
But is that considered part of our program?
It is, because the schools are in.
Our customer.
Yeah.
So well, you know.
I thought it was residential.
Yeah, it says residential.
I thought that's why they
Contract's
had
totally
a whole new
residential.
contract for.
Defines residential units.
Burn pile. It just seems like, you know.
The contract, I know it describes residential units.
So Pat's question is do you want to allow people to continue to dump branches at the?
Right, so if we do work at the park like we did, where would we put them?
Leave them in the park, and we'll have them come through and pick up the stuff at the park.
So
That's not
that's,
residential.
right,
That's the village.
That would be the village.
Well, the village burn pile is the village.
But the village could put it in the burn pile is what we're saying. I mean,
We don't burn them.
no,
Not at the
no.
park.
What do you
He's saying
I
go
think
pick it
he's
up.
saying shut the burn pile down. Like,
No, I know that, but I'm saying the park.
Don't
So
worry.
they'll go through and pick up in the park, right? We just said that?
Well,
So Paul, I guess, again, I think
You
you're
asked.
confusing something because if there's work done on our property and we have to dispose of limbs, we're going to dispose of them one way or the other regardless. So that's probably not the example that you're looking
Well,
for.
yeah, but
It is my question, it's exactly my question.
The encouragement to be doing here is because that contract that was signed for 3 years is set to pick up in front of people's houses. If there are other places like the piling in front of the old burn pile or outside the gate, which is where Pat's reference is, the request was made when that contract is to keep that available. For if somebody didn't want to wait until the beginning of the month, they could put them on a truck and drop them off there. Well, we stopped burning. We don't burn anything because all the smoke blows. And, you know, we were guilty of what we were trying to stop everybody else from doing.
The burn pile is a separate contract.
That's what Pat was asking.
He's asking about the separate contract, do we want to renew it?
Do you want to continue to allow people to drop a truckload of branches down there? Or just say, leave them and put them in front of your house, and at the beginning of the month, they'll be by to get them?
Well, before I can respond to that question, I need some information. So we have two contracts. One is to pick up branches through town. For residential units. Trustee Detmers asked a question about what we do in the park. Pat said you can throw the branches in the park, they'll be picked up in the park as part of that contract.
Well,
We have a separate contract with them then to pick up at the village burn pile. We have to have it because that's not considered residential, but yet we just established that they'll pick up in the park. yet it's not residential. So I fail to understand why we need to pay a separate contract for picking up at the village burn pile, not residential, but they'll pick up in a village park.
Yes.
All right, we won't let them drop stuff in the park.
So,
I mean, we really shouldn't anyway. Our crews will take care of any branches and stuff that we trim out of the park.
Which is what it should happen.
Yeah.
Right, but where do we put them? That's my whole thing. Like, we're taking away something that the citizens use.
Yeah.
We're taking it away.
We are. We're
That's
paying
what,
for it.
that's what's being proposed.
Or we continue paying to have someone pick it up.
That's the question.
That's
Just
the only
asking.
that's the only thing I need to know, one or the other.
If we were to take it away, where does the village dispose of the park trees?
I don't know. I'll have to.
There would still be some cost associated with.
We could probably load it up and take it into the same place the National Tree takes the stuff.
Regardless,
Yeah.
there's always going to be a cost associated. If the village is cutting down trees and disposing of stuff, there's going to be a cost associated with that somehow. But the weight that is getting added at the gate is additional because instead of just leaving them at the roadway in front of the house, they move over there and then they charge that based on volume? Or is that on a?
And we had
No,
National
it's
Tree,
not based on volume.
when we had National Tree come into the utility committee, and, you know, they kind of let us, or indicated that they know that there's other tree trimming places that are just, they know there's a back way in there.
Yeah.
And they're dumping all their stuff in.
And if we could say no more dumping,
We don't have a person at the gate though.
we do not have a person at the gate.
So what do we do with the village burn pile area if we say we're not going to use that as the village, not burn pile, but drop off?
What do we use it for?
Yeah.
Right now, it's a driveway. And they just pull down the driveway up to the gate and throw stuff on this side and that side.
But I mean, so you're recommending us not to allow drop off there anymore?
No, I didn't say that.
Yes.
I asked you which you would prefer. Either no burn pile or no drop area, or renew the contract.
Well, let me ask you a question. So if we say, all right, no, we're not going to do drop off branches at the village pile there anymore. What if people still are used to dumping at the gate, continue to do that?
Well, we will try to let the public know that it is no longer, dumping is no longer allowed. We'll put signs up out there, dumping is no longer allowed. And if we catch people, then with the camera, with the police, we will go and find them or ask them to come back. If it's companies, we've actually had to go find the company that dumps stuff, make them bring their trailer back, and then have to hand load the stuff and drive it out.
Don't we have signs up there already?
No, because we are not dumping.
Not outside the gate.
We do now because we close the gate because it becomes such a mess in the back.
But yeah, because I've seen, there's a sign up, I mean, it's clear you're not supposed to be dumping outside that gate. So people are intentionally disobeying the signage at the gate. And we have cameras up, and people are intentionally disobeying that sign, dumping before that gate, and we're not enforcing it.
Or are the people told to dump there?
If we're told to dump there.
I don't know.
When they do it.
Like I said, I don't think people are coming to get permits anymore.
Okay.
Well, you can see that it's dropped off. I mean, it's on the report. I guess, you know, we could say,
Paul, you got to also context for this year. We've done everything not to encourage, no face-to-face contact. That's the mantra of this entire year.
I would say close.
I would like to see it closed.
Yeah.
Because there's many times, many days that we get called and we gotta go down there, try to find the camera footage, if we find it, get the camera footage, if we make out a vehicle grant, we can. There's businesses that go down there, other tree businesses go down there and they dump their stuff. Sometimes we can find it responsible, sometimes we can't. There's people taking advantage of National Tree Care as far as they cut down trees, but then it's a deal that's made between the customer and National Tree or some other outside vendor. It gets dumped down there. It's a nuisance.
okay, so to that point, so we lock the gate, no one's really coming in and getting permits anymore, and people are just dumping off before it. So, I mean, so my recommendation is, what we just said, we just discussed, my recommendation would be lock the gate, put up signs, educate the public, put it out on Facebook, let them know that we no longer accept or dump is, outside the fence there. Basically, the tree service will come around, whatever it is offered for the village, and go that route. Because it turns into a nightmare for Bridgeport. But my point is, that's pretty much what's being done now, because there's not many permits. People are coming in to get permits now, so they're going out and just dumping it before the gate anyway. So it's not like we're really utilizing the village pile anyway. So people are just going and dumping. So the enforcement is not going to stop if people continue to disregard the signage.
I believe that's probably what they were instructed to do. Because National Tree Care calls us and says, hey, they're dumping stuff down the pile, or they're dumping stuff in the pile, or they're dumping stuff here. Then we gotta go and respond and find out what's going on. And majority of the time, we find out who's responsible, not all the time. And then we end up with brush in the burn pile, or we end up with brush outside the gate. It's very,
From a procedure, doesn't sound like it'd be much of a change, but it's gonna have to be enforced more in terms of who's dumping in front of the gate.
So I hear it too.
well, so that'd be great if that's what you wanna do. I'm all for it. If you wanna close the gate and no longer dumping outside the gate, absolutely. And no more.
It should have been enforced to begin with, if people aren't
But
supposed
you
to
guys,
be.
but you allowed people to go down inside the gate, that's what, we didn't want people beyond the gate. To go back there and dump, like Pat said, you get people back there dumping everything, toilets, the couches, or whatever. So then I believe.
They're not brazen enough to do that at the gate.
And then they dump it, now it was told, instead of going back there, now I believe, it was told to dump outside the gate. That way we could kind of monitor what's being dumped outside the gate.
And we didn't want.
Because the board still allowed us, the board allowed people to continue to bring their branches down there. We never swayed for that.
To be clear, the board never authorized to dump outside the gate.
Right.
The board never made it clear
No,
where it is.
but we did.
To utilize the actual village pile.
said you could go, but
Right,
if you got one.
if you got a permit,
If
that
you
was
got a
supposed to be the,
There's no way to monitor the permit process, unless you're gonna pay an IRA employee to sit down there and watch who comes and goes out of there. That's not, that's not feasible.
I would say close it. How's everybody?
yeah, I'm fine with closing, I'm fine with closing it if people have been abusing it, which we knew was a problem when we talked about it before, but that was the reason why we wanted the permit. If people can't follow a permit, then forget it, close the gate, we're not gonna allow it. We've had a year and a half of this, and if they've been doing it for that long, then they're done, it's not an option for them anymore. I'm fine with that.
And is National Tree Care just so the schools branches, are they just picking that up as part of the residential contract?
Yes.
And haven't asked for any more money regarding that? Because I would say that would need to probably be a contract between the school district and National Tree Care.
I don't know how much they pick up anymore. There's seasons that the school district trims some of their trees back.
But I would say that would fall on them.
Well,
And not
Or if
us.
it's, I don't know.
Just
I've never
unless we wanna
objected to
amend
it.
the contract to include the school district, but the school district has its own budgets and they take care of their property.
I've never objected to a vendor doing something outside of the contract and didn't change the price to it. So a lot of these guys, they come in, if they driving down the street and, here's a pile in front of the elementary school, we can grab that and take care of the problem and it's gone and the issue's gone. It didn't change the bill that we got. It's the same contracted price that we've had the whole time.
But it's not the same kind, because it's residential units only.
Hasn't changed the price. If they pick up something outside of their contract, don't charge us anything more for it. It's a nice thing they've done for the village of Chatham.
But we don't take care of schools' properties.
Like I said,
I mean, we can start mowing the football fields, we can start doing all that too, but we don't. I mean, that should be the schools.
I don't follow your argument there. If they
We're
want to pick
taking
up,
care of their property.
if there's sticks on the side of the road and they want to stop and pick them up regardless of where they're at,
For residential units.
well, that's what they're supposed to do, but if they,
Correct. That's what our contract says. If you're outside that contract,
it's
you're
on
outside
them.
that contract. Now, if we want to include that in the contract, that's fine.
so to be clear, you're upset that somebody is doing something above and beyond the service level that they said.
To
they
be
would do
clear, our
without
contract
charging
says
more.
residential units.
Gotcha.
Last time I checked, the school district was not a residential unit. They have their own board, and they have their own things that make decisions for the school district, not us. And it's their property. That's why I'm saying, if nobody agrees with me, that's fine, we can keep picking them up. Greg, do you think we should pick them up contractually?
Well, I mean, my opinion on this would be, I need to go back to see how we define residential, but even if it's outside of the residential definition in our contract, they would, I guess technically, theoretically be in breach of contract, but they would just be providing benefit to the village. I don't see how we are damaged unless we are paying by quantity, which we're not. We have a set price, so the village is not incurring any damages.
But do we have a set price? Because we have a secondary contract with them.
Yeah, we do for residential, yes. We have a set price for residential, and we have a set price for the secondary contract, but the secondary contract isn't in play on this one.
Right.
So I think it's just a gift that they're giving to the village of Chatham, basically, by picking up the school.
I'm totally fine.
All right, so as a consensus, hopefully the next board meeting will be something on there about closing the burn pile then? Is that something we're gonna be looking, something to do?
Well,
I think it's pretty much been closed. It's been closed.
No, they've just been told to dump in front of the gate.
Yeah.
That's what.
Because they chose not to get the permit, which was what would allow you to get behind the gate.
I think if you go to the utility office and say, hey, what should I do with this bush? They say, dump it in front of the gate.
There you go.
Well, my problem is, the intention when we voted for the green program, our intention is that if you utilize it, it goes through the proper channel getting a permit. Instead, that was our intention, that wasn't followed. They were told to dump outside the gate, so what's it matter what we say anyway? That's my opinion.
It matters, we just don't have a way to enforce it all.
Yeah.
We don't.
And I get that.
That's why we had them stop there.
I'm good with having that on the next board.
That'd be great.
Yep.
All right, public property and recreation committee discussion.
Met last night, new mulch at JC Park. The extra mulch is going to go to Westside Park, so improvements there. Slit seating at South Park and Westside Park as well. Trimmed a lot of trees through South Park. I'm not sure what we did with them. That was a joke. New cameras at the concession stand at South Park, so hopefully we can prevent some vandalism there. Baseball diamonds have been repaired. They're looking great. We're about to winterize the concession stand, but there will be a porta potty installed for the pickleball folks that are out there. There's a lot of work around South Park for light up the park, so try to stay away from any electrical equipment that's out there. But there have been some system upgrades out there to make that process more efficient. My understanding is that
Looks nice.
the Friends of the Park paid for those improvements. So thank you to the Friends of the Park for that work.
But on that, if the village provided them with supplies, would the Friends of the Park just reimburse us?
Say that again.
So if we provided them with supplies, so electrical line, transformers, anything like that, would they just reimburse us?
I don't know that we supplied them with that. We may have ordered stuff, or we're billing them for it, but
Okay.
we don't have
It's a good
anything
thing.
in place right now on whether it's a donation or whether, I would assume Shane is if it's stuff that we're putting in, they will get billed for it.
It looks really nice.
My limited electrical experiences is once it comes out of that green box, it's not equipment that the village uses anymore, so they're getting their own stuff.
So the panels and stuff, that was all stuff that the Friends of the Park, I think, hired an electric contractor to install for them.
Okay.
That was my understanding as well. Yeah.
Good.
Bike path repair, I got a call from Dustin today that he spoke with the contractor on that bike path repair and that he's finishing up a job this week and hoping to begin it next week. And again, that's on the bridge section, not the path repair that's after the bridge or south of the bridge. So this is a reminder that bridge will be closed during that repair. Real quick, a couple more things. They looked for a grant for the dog park. Unfortunately, we priorities from the Public Properties Commission include the bike path repair, installing a dog park, and installing baseball diamonds at West Side and the pavilion repair at West Side. So there's three, again, bike path, dog park, and West Side.
And is it still the intention to put the dog park on that west side?
Yes, that was the last drawing, the last time I've spoken to you guys about it, that's what the consensus was. And then, one last thing is there is a Light Up the Park event this year. It's gonna run from Thursday through Sunday nights, November 27th through December 27th, from 6 to 9. It's gonna be some changes this year due to COVID, so Santa, if he's not busy, will likely not approach your car, but he'll wave from afar. But the new thing is they're selling gift cards this year, so if you happen to cross a local ice cream shop, you might find some gift cards for Light Up the Park.
Awesome. Well, the underground electrical will make it easier for flood when, if it floods there too, right? Because didn't we, they used to have the, that's awesome.
Yep.
It looks really good. All right, utility, we've got nothing. We updated last time. We'll have our next meeting, in December. Public, comments on village business? Do we have any?
No.
All right, committee of the whole, scheduled meetings, committee of the whole, 6:15, municipal hall, December 8, 2020. We have a closed session, for setting the price for the sale of public property. Well, are we going back?
We can, yeah, go back to that.
So
So
we're
you
gonna,
adjourn.
can I get a motion to adjourn and
I'll make that
re-adjourn
I'll make the
in
motion
the
to
regular
adjourn.
village meeting? Is that allowed?
Just adjourn once.
All right.
All we need to do is make a motion to adjourn the committee of the
Trustee
whole.
Churchill, I have a second. Trustee Detmers, all those in favor?
Aye.
And all those opposed, they all agree.
Now, could I have a motion to re-adjourn board meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion.
I'll second.
Second by trustee Mann, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, can I have a motion, please, to move to closed session for the property, to cover collective negotiating matter and setting the price of sale of public property?
I'll make that motion.
And also personnel issue.
Is that negotiating, collective bargaining? Which one do you want that under, Greg?
Which one are we doing?
Is it a personnel or
Choose- Yeah, personnel issue and collective negotiating.
Okay, 2C1, 2C2,
They're both.
and second set. Trustee Charles made a motion to a second.
I'll second.
Second by trustee Gerger. Mr. Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Chara.
Yes.
Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Mao. Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Okay, and in accordance with our protocols here to keep everybody safe, we'll ask you all to leave this room because we'll utilize it for our executive session. And there was no planned action to be taken after this session. So the only thing is we'll re-adjourn and close the meeting.
All right, I'm stopping the broadcast.